When the courier delivered a bouquet of roses with a note meant for another woman, I knew my revenge would be more elegant than his betrayal. He thought he was playing chess, but I'd already called checkmate. It was an ordinary Tuesday, the kind where nothing remarkable happens or is supposed to happen. I was in my home office, drowning in reports and endless emails, while Max, my golden retriever, snoozed peacefully at my feet. The house was quiet, the air warm and cozy, my coffee long gone cold. I was wrapping up a quarterly analysis when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I opened the door, there stood a courier holding the most stunning bouquet of red roses I'd ever seen, 30 at least, deep and velvety, wrapped in elegant paper and tied with a satin ribbon. "For Julia Anderson," the courier said, smiling. "That's me," I replied, taking the bouquet. "Thank you." Closing the door, I stood in the hallway, a little stunned. Michael was never the romantic type, especially lately. Flowers, surprises, that was all left behind in the candy and bouquet days of our early relationship. But maybe, just maybe, he was trying to fix something. My heart flickered with hope as I untied the ribbon and reached for the small white envelope nestled among the blooms. The card was expensive, thick, and faintly scented with his cologne. I smiled, expecting something sweet like, "To my beautiful wife," or a playful, "Sorry I forgot the laundry again." But the words I read stopped me cold. "To my darling Samantha. Can't wait to see you tonight. Love, M." My fingers tightened around the card, my smile frozen, half-formed. Samantha. Tonight. Love. I didn't move for a full minute. My heart didn't race. It sank like a stone in water. The roses were still in my arms, their petals soft and perfect. But now they felt heavy, too heavy. I read the card again, and again. Each word carved a deeper slice into my chest. He hadn't sent them to me, not at all. They were meant for someone else, someone named Samantha, but by some cruel twist of fate, they'd landed in the hands of his wife, Dot. The wrong woman got the right flowers, or the right woman got the wrong truth. I stared at the roses and didn't cry, didn't scream. I just exhaled, set the bouquet on the kitchen table, and reached for my phone. First, I photographed the card, front and back, clear and sharp. Then the flowers, exactly as they'd arrived. I didn't know what I'd do with the evidence, but I knew relying on memory alone was foolish. My hands were steady, too steady. That scared me more than if they'd trembled. It meant something in me had gone quiet, focused, detached. I looked at the roses again, and a strange calm wrapped around me. Not the kind that soothes, but the kind that comes before a storm. The kind that lets you think clearly, even when your world is turning upside down. I wasn't ready for a confrontation. Not yet. I needed more than flowers and a name. I needed to know everything, Dot. When Michael walked through the door that evening, smiling like the man I thought I knew, I smiled back. Warm, calm, like nothing had changed. Because sometimes the best way to find the truth is to pretend you haven't stumbled across it yet. I didn't ask him a single question that night. Not about his day, not about dinner, not about Samantha. I just set the table, poured him a glass of wine, and nodded as he talked about a long meeting that supposedly ran late. Dot, he had no idea I knew who else was at that meeting. He didn't notice how still I'd become, how every polite smile was really a shield, Dot. Over the next few days, I became a different person. Not outwardly, I stayed the same reliable wife on the surface. But inside, I was watching. Every move, every word, every scent that wasn't mine. That new cologne. It wasn't subtle. Neither were the sudden uptick in late-night work dinners or the muffled phone calls from behind the bathroom door. I started cataloging everything. Changes in his routine, the way he checked his phone with a slight smirk, like he was guarding a secret. I took photos, screenshots, notes. At first it felt like betrayal, but it quickly became strategy, like chess. I wasn't confronting a man. I was studying an opponent. Dot, piece by piece, the picture came together. I found her in less than a week. Samantha. She was exactly the kind of woman you'd expect a man like Michael to risk everything for. young, polished to a shine, recently hired at his firm. Her Instagram was a curated dream. Rooftop cocktails, sunrise yoga, captions about manifesting love and choosing peace. She didn't look like a woman stealing someone's husband. Then again, neither did I. What struck me most was how visible she was and how invisible I'd become. Every scroll through her feed made it clearer. She had no idea about me, not even a hint. No sneaky photos of Michael's hand, no cryptic captions hinting at secrecy, just her, smiling freely like a woman in love with someone who made her feel chosen. That's when something in me shifted from pain to clarity. I didn't hate her. That surprised me. I should have. But instead, I saw her as a mirror, another woman believing in a version of Michael that wasn't real. She wasn't the enemy. She was a clue. And if I played this right, she could be part of the ending, a very poetic ending. So I didn't explode, didn't cry. I made a new account and followed her. I called it Emma, a soft, harmless name that wouldn't make Samantha suspicious. I followed her, liked a few posts, even replied to a story with a compliment about her dress. It didn't take long for her to follow back. That's the thing about people like her. They're used to admiration. They don't suspect the quiet eyes behind kind words. And I intended to stay quiet for now. Michael, meanwhile, remained oblivious. He told me he was working late again. I told him to take care. He kissed my forehead and left the house in that cologne I didn't buy. I watched him pull out of the driveway and disappear into the evening, like it was any other Thursday. But inside, I was already building the finale, post by post. As I scrolled through Samantha's world, her avocado brunches and rooftop selfies, I waited. Not just for more signs, but for the perfect moment. Because confronting a man like Michael isn't about timing. It's about composition. And I was just starting to work on the perfect frame. By Friday morning, the plan was blooming in my mind like those damn roses. I told Michael I missed us, that we should do something special. Just the two of us. His eyes lit up, not with guilt, but with ego. He liked the idea of being the adored husband. I suggested dinner at home, something romantic. Candles, his favorite wine, maybe a new dress. He kissed me like I was his again. It almost made me laugh. While he was secretly texting Samantha, I was texting her too. As Emma, we were new friends now. I kept it casual, light, asking about the best wine bars, complimenting her earrings. She shared more than I expected. Samantha wasn't guarded. She was open, chatty, even sweet. She mentioned a guy she was seeing, someone she really liked. And I didn't even have to ask. The irony draped over me like a silk sheet, smooth, suffocating. She thought she was falling in love. She didn't know she was part of a lie that wore a wedding ring. But I didn't blame her, not yet, because if what she said was true, if she really didn't know, then maybe she deserved more than just the truth. Maybe she deserved the kind of clarity only a carefully lit fuse could bring. Samantha mentioned she hadn't been to Michael's place yet. He travels a lot, she wrote with a sad emoji. I nearly replied with a laugh but held back. Instead, I asked where they usually met. And that's when she spilled his go-to hotel near the office. Room service, jazz music, dim lighting. She thought it was romantic. I knew it was strategy, safe distance from the life he was hiding. I started collecting pieces. Not just digital, but tangible. Receipts, screenshots, hotel confirmations. His lies were everywhere, like breadcrumbs dropped by a man too arrogant to imagine he was being followed. And while he slept beside me each night, I sat in the dim light of our kitchen with a notebook full of timelines. Samantha's messages, his calendar, my intuition, it all pointed to one perfect window. Meanwhile, I rehearsed the dinner in my head. The menu, the wine, the timing. Every detail had to mirror the fantasy he'd built with Samantha, not because I wanted to recreate it, but because I wanted to burn it to the ground. And when the ashes settled, he wouldn't have a clue where the fire started. The day before our planned dinner, I sent Samantha a voice note, still as Emma, gently hinting that the man she was seeing might not be entirely honest. I didn't accuse. I planted seeds. I told her I'd heard something, a rumor, a whisper that her M might be married. Her reply came an hour later. "No way, he's not like that," she wrote. But by the next morning, her tone had shifted. "Can we talk?" she asked. I said I'd explain everything, and I did, carefully, kindly, without venom, just facts and proof. I sent her a blurred photo of the flower card. I even recorded a voice note, letting her hear the emotion in my voice. It wasn't rage, it was resignation. She didn't block me, didn't defend him. She just said, "Thank you. I didn't know." That's when I knew Samantha wasn't the problem. She was part of the solution. She wouldn't be at the dinner, of course, but her presence would be. In the card, in the voice note, in the look on Michael's face when he realized both women had seen him for what he was. And when that moment came, I wanted it to cut deeper than any confrontation. Saturday arrived, dressed in calm. The house was spotless, the table set for two, candles flickering like they'd forgotten who we were. I wore red, not for seduction, but for symbolism. A reflection of the roses he sent, the love he thought he could split between two women. Michael walked in with that lazy confidence he wore so well, kissed my cheek, complimented the setup, poured himself a drink like it was just another night. He didn't know what he was walking into. Not yet. He talked about work. I nodded. He said I looked beautiful. I smiled. He raised his glass and toasted to us. I clinked my glass against his and sipped slowly, letting him bask in the illusion. When the plates were cleared and the silence grew thick, I reached for something under the table, the original flower card. I slid it toward him without a word. He looked confused, then curious, then frozen. He picked it up like it might bite him. I watched his eyes scan the message. "To my darling Samantha, can't wait to see you tonight. Love, M." His jaw tightened. He opened his mouth, but I was faster. "Thought you should know your florist screwed up," I said, my voice soft. "Samantha never got her flowers." The color drained from his face, like someone had pulled the plug. He looked at me, then back at the card, as if hoping the words would rearrange themselves. "Julia, I can explain." He started, but I was already tapping my phone, calm and deliberate. I opened the voice notes and hit play. Samantha's voice filled the room, sweet, unsure, betrayed. "Thank you, Emma, for telling me the truth. I had no idea he was married." Michael flinched. It was the first honest reaction I'd seen in weeks. He stared at the phone like it had just shattered his reflection. "Emma?" he asked, barely a whisper. "That was me," I said. "While you were playing lover in hotel rooms, I was making a new friend, and she had no idea you had a wife at home lighting candles and cooking dinner." He sank back in his chair, stunned. No excuses, no bluster, just silence. And I let it hang between us, thick and suffocating. Then, casually, I added, "Oh, and you might want to check your email. I sent that same card and voice note to your boss, your parents, and, of course, Samantha." I smiled, didn't want anyone to feel left out. He stood, but there was nowhere to go. No version of this ended with him in control. He looked around the room, like it might offer him a lifeline. The wine bottle, the flickering candles, the woman he thought would never find out. But I was done being that woman. I'd already packed a bag, already changed the locks. The dinner wasn't an invitation to fix things. It was a farewell performance, and he had a front row seat. He tried one last time, quiet, broken. "Julia, please." I tilted my head and studied him. Really studied him. This wasn't a man who made a mistake. This was a man who thought he'd never get caught. And now, stripped of his lies, all that was left was the shame he'd dressed up as charm. "Michael," I said, my voice steady but firm, "remember our wedding day? You vowed to be honest with me, in sickness and in health, remember? But you chose someone else for the health and left me with the sickness." His face paled further. "It's not like that. We can fix this." "Fix this?" I stood from the table. Michael, you didn't just cheat on me. You built a whole parallel life. Hotels, dates, promises. Tell me, when you told her you loved her, did you think of me for even a second? He was silent, and that was louder than any answer. She thought you were free, I continued, and I thought I had a husband. We were both wrong, weren't we? Julia, No! I cut him off sharply. It's my turn to talk. You know what hurts the most? Not the flowers, not the messages. It's how easy it was for you to lie to me every single day. To come home, kiss me, talk about work, knowing you were with her an hour before. Tears pricked my eyes, but I held them back. You turned our life into a stage set, Michael, and me into an extra in your play. It didn't mean, he started. Didn't mean what? My voice rose for the first time that night. Didn't mean you saved her in your phone as consultant? Didn't mean you bought new cologne for your dates with her? Didn't mean you lied to my face every damn day? He tried to stand, to reach for me, but I stepped back. Julia, please, let me explain. Explain what? I laughed, joyless. How you accidentally had an affair. How you accidentally booked hotel rooms. How you accidentally told another woman the same words you once told me. The silence between us was heavy, suffocating. You know what kills me the most? My voice softened. I still loved you, even after the flowers, even after the card. Part of me hoped it was all a horrible mistake, but then I saw her photos, her messages, her belief in your love, and I realized this wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. Your choice. Michael dropped his head. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, but it did. And now everyone knows the truth. Your Samantha, your boss, your parents, your carefully built lie crumbled like a house of cards. I didn't yell, didn't cry. I just walked to the door and opened it. You'll have plenty of time to think about it, I said, standing tall and certain, because I'm done being the one waiting at home while you play pretend. He didn't follow me. He couldn't. And I didn't look back, because what waited on the other side of that door was mine to claim. The fallout hit him fast. By Monday morning, Michael was called into HR. Samantha had already sent them screenshots. I just forwarded the rest. The company had a strict policy about undisclosed relationships with subordinates. By noon, his nameplate was gone from his office door. By evening, his parents were calling me. I didn't pick up. Samantha blocked him. She sent me one last message, an apology I didn't expect but appreciated. You didn't deserve any of this, she wrote. And she was right. But I wasn't interested in revenge anymore. I had no appetite for it. What I wanted, what I needed, was air, space, silence. So I packed my things, called a lawyer, and filed for divorce. Clean, decisive, unapologetic. I walked away with half the house, half the savings, half of everything he thought I'd never have the strength to take, including the wine collection he guarded like a dragon, and the lake house we barely used because he was always too busy. Turns out he had other plans, now I did too, and mine didn't involve dragging a broken man like dead weight. I moved into a smaller place, cozy, sunlit, with hardwood floors and a balcony that caught the afternoon breeze. Every Sunday I bought fresh flowers, always arranging them myself. Never red roses. That scent no longer belonged in my home. Max adjusted quickly, curling up in new corners, sensing the peace we'd both been missing. I started filling my days with things I loved before I shrank myself into the role of wife. Mornings at cafes with my journal, long walks without checking my phone, dinners with old friends who didn't ask questions, just poured wine and listened. I wasn't trying to rebuild the past. I was learning to bloom in the quiet that followed the storm, learning to trust the ground again. 3 months later, a delivery came one afternoon. No doorbell, just a soft knock. A quiet moment. I opened the door to find another bouquet. This one was different, mixed flowers, vibrant and joyful, with a handwritten card addressed correctly, completely. To Julia, admiring you from afar, would love to take you to dinner. David Harrison. No initials, no secrets, just a simple offer. I stood there, holding the flowers, the breeze lifting the card slightly. I didn't cry, didn't rush to text anyone. I just smiled, a real, quiet smile, and placed them in a vase by the window. Not because I was ready to fall in love again, but because I finally felt whole enough to choose. This time, the name on the card was mine. No mix-up, no betrayal, just something new, entirely my own. A week later, I called David. We met at a small Italian restaurant where he turned out to be an architect with kind eyes and a genuine laugh. He told me about his projects. I told him about my new life. Neither of us rushed. Neither tried to impress. "You know," he said over dessert, "I saw you at that cafe on Main Street. You were writing in a notebook, and there was this calm on your face, like you'd finally found what you were looking for." "Maybe I did," I said, "or maybe I just stopped looking for the wrong things." He smiled, and there wasn't a trace of deceit in his eyes. We saw each other a few more times. Slowly, carefully, no promises or vows. David didn't try to fill the void Michael left. He was just there, when I was ready to let someone be there. And Michael? The last I heard, from mutual friends, he'd moved to another city, found a new job. Samantha married a nice guy from the office next door. I saw the photos online. She looked happy, truly happy. Sometimes I thought about that day with the roses, how one courier's mistake changed everything. But then I realized it wasn't a mistake. It was fate deciding I deserved the truth. I thought about what Michael cost me. Trust, time, a version of myself I nearly lost. But then I thought about what I gained. Clarity, strength, a sense of self I didn't know I'd buried under scheduled dinners and polite silences. He sent roses to the wrong woman. I just returned the favor with thorns. And so a chapter closed. Not with a scream or a slammed door, but with a woman standing tall in her own living room, arranging fresh flowers that finally belonged to her. A year passed. David and I were still seeing each other, but now it was deeper, truer. He met Max, who accepted him with the eager joy only a retriever can muster. We didn't live together. I wasn't ready to share my reclaimed life, but we were building something real. No lies, no secrets. One evening, as we sat on my balcony watching the sunset, David said, "Julia, I want you to know I'll never take you for granted. What you went through, how you found the strength to start over. You're the strongest woman I know." I looked at him, this man who saw my scars and didn't try to hide or fix them, just accepted them as part of my story. "You know," I said, "I used to think strength was enduring everything. But now, I know it's knowing when to walk away." He took my hand and we sat in silence, watching the sun dip below the horizon. It wasn't the silence of unmet expectations or unspoken suspicions. It was the silence of two people who found each other, not out of desperation, but out of wholeness. Sometimes comma. I still thought about that bouquet of roses, but now I saw them differently, not as a symbol of betrayal, but as the last gift from a life that no longer fit me. They showed me a truth I was scared to see and gave me strength I didn't know I had. Michael thought he was playing chess, moving pieces between two women, but he didn't realize we weren't his pieces. We were players in our own games. And in my game, I'd finally called checkmate. Today, 2 years after that fateful bouquet, I wake up in a home where every item was chosen by me, where every flower in the vase was bought for my joy, where every morning starts with gratitude for finding the courage to begin again. David proposed a month ago. I said yes, not because I feared being alone, but because I was ready for partnership, real partnership, built on honesty and mutual respect. We're planning a small wedding in the fall. No roses. I chose peonies and eucalyptus, flowers that mean new beginnings and healing. In my journal, in the entry from that day when everything changed, I wrote, "Today a courier brought me the greatest gift of my life, the truth. Sometimes you need to receive flowers meant for another woman to realize which ones you deserve. The story is over. A new chapter is just beginning." Dear viewers, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this story. What did you think of Julia's journey? Please share your opinion in the comments below and let me know where you're reading from. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to leave a like,